Hey, it's Kara, your host. I'm here today because I'm often asked, what should I read next? Or what is your all time favorite book? And that is why I created this list. This list isn't a declaration of the greatest books of all time. Rather, it's a collection of the stories I can't stop thinking about, the ones I've recommended more times than I can count, and that continue to live rent free in my head. Whether you're looking for your next unforgettable read, or just want to see what books have shaped my reading life, I hope this guide of 25 books inspires you to discover a new favorite. Head on over to the link in the show notes or to bookishflights.com/read/25 books. Hi, I'm Kara Infante, and this is Bookish Flights. In each episode, I chat with one bookish guest as we take some time to sample and savor the pairing recommendations from their bookish flight. We hope to give you suggestions to cultivate your TBR list and nurture your leisure time through books. In today's episode, I am chatting with Kate Angelo. Kate is an autodidactic polymath who once sold a lion to a circus in Shreveport after her mom realized lions weren't great house pets. Growing up, she was a bookworm, dog groomer, exotic pet wrangler, horse trainer, and teenage pool shark. After aging out of foster care, she broke into tech at the height of the .com era, helping build web tools still powering businesses today. She's earned recognition as a Publishers Weekly best-selling author, a SELA Award winner, and an Amazon Top 100 bestseller, who works alongside her husband championing stronger marriages through their nonprofit. Her journey from foster care to best-selling author fuels her fast-paced romantic suspense, where flawed characters discover hope and healing through life's fiercest trials and relationships. Today, we're here to discuss her latest book, Girl Lost. Welcome to the show, Kate.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, my first question to start our interview is, tell us a little bit about you. I feel like we're so much more than these bios, but automatically, how did you end up with a lion? I'm like reading your bio. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that one does kind of stand out. I've kind of like tweaked it. I was like, I could have a bio that's like pretty plain that just says, I'm a writer, but it is kind of an interesting talking point that my mom, we lived in Houston, Texas, like in a suburb, and she had exotic pets, and so she would kind of buy exotic pets and then have them for a little while and like broker them to other places. And I don't know how she got into that, but we had exotic birds. We've had monkeys, we had bobcats, we had a lion, we had the lion is probably like the weirdest, like biggest shift because, it was a male and he outgrew us pretty fast. And so he had to go to a circus, which is where I think she might have been like brokering that deal all along, and maybe I just wasn't aware of it. So pretty weird, but we had to keep my younger brother blocked out because he couldn't be in the room with the lion, because if he was, he would try to like play with him like he was a cub, and he would get really aggressive with him and stuff. And so we just realized we couldn't have a lion in the house with children, I guess. So
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Like that is like every child's dream is to have like a monkey or a bobcat or a lion. Like that is amazing.
right. I know. I used to be like, yeah, well, she never let me get a giraffe. That's what I really wanted. So like you could sound very spoiled, like, well, you had all these other exotic animals and you didn't get the one that you wanted. So
Yeah.
I thought having a giraffe would be pretty cool. I don't know what I would have done with the giraffe in Houston, Texas, but still sounded fun to me.
So do you have any pets today after growing up with that?
So, so I am an avid dog lover, and I
Okay.
have a long-haired Chihuahua named Willow. And she used to sleep on my desk when I had a different office setup. And now I have a standing desk, and she does not like being on top of the standing desk very
Too
much.
high.
And so I know. So the raising and lower has scared her enough times. So, and then I am the reluctant cat owner of a cat named Blake, where my daughter was in college and she had a cat that was living with her in her dorm, and she was said she was a competitive swimmer, and she
Okay.
asked if we would watch the cat for 2 weeks while she went to a training and did championship swim, and that was, I think, 3 years ago. So
Yeah.
so we have a cat. We also have a cat who
Yes.
thinks he's a chihuahua, I think. And he's like a small toddler who gets into stuff when he wants attention, like chewing on cables. He's chewed through a couple of my computer cables and things like that. So
Oh my goodness. Is he an orange cat by chance?
no,
Okay.
I know because orange cats are
Yeah.
like that too. But he's like, he acts like that. He's, I forgot what they call him, but he's like the gray and black version,
Okay.
of an orange striped cat.
Yeah. A
I forgot what
tabby
it.
of some
Yeah,
kind. Like,
I think like domestic short hair is really what they
okay.
call them, which I think is what they call all cats. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, we've digressed a bit into pets and animals, which I
right.
don't think I've done on the show yet. So that was kind of fun to do.
Yeah.
So you have had your latest book come out, Girl Lost. Can you tell the listeners about it?
Oh yeah, Girl Lost is it's just an interesting book. It is, I think, emotionally rich romantic suspense that kicks off a new series called the King Legacy series. And it follows the heroine Luna Rosati as she is a former CIA counterintelligence officer who's forced back into like the world and the hometown that she walked away from whenever her mentor vanishes. And so her estranged first love is assigned to the case, and she is forced to work with him. And then they race to save the mentor, and she ends up having to confront that past that she's really tried to forget, and then try not to fall in love with the one man who still holds that place in her heart. And so I think it's filled with emotion and drama, and it really just kind of explores the lives of people who have been shaped by broken pasts and forged through fire and still carry those scars physically and mentally.
Yeah. I think this is one of my like newer favorite genres because you've got the suspense timeline that like makes you want, it's like a page turner, right? You're like, I want to know what's going to happen and I want to figure this out. And you're like kind of being, a detective in the background, but then you have this like romance plot line coming in through. And it's like, then you get that little bit of happily ever after. And it's like, I just love this mesh of genres because it's like so good. I like read them so
Yes.
fast.
Oh, me too. I love slow burn romances myself.
Yeah.
And I kind of joke that I'm like really the least romantic person because I'm not a super girly romantic person, but I love to I just love it whenever there's that blend of two people who are like working side by side, which is probably, now that I'm just thinking about it for the first time, like my husband and I work side by side. So this is probably why I write those kind, where they're kind of forced to work together through these problems, and then their relationship is blossoming and growing and trust is being built through that. So yeah,
Yeah, and that kind of
it's
like
true.
sneaks up when you're working side by side, right? Because that wasn't the intention of why you came together to begin with, but that kind of like sneaks up in the background. So that's
Yeah,
fun.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's a good
So
point.
you say this is book one of the series. So how do you have like how many books are planned in this, or how, like how does that work when you start that?
Yeah, so right now I know that there will at least be two books in the series.
Okay.
I'm thinking there will be three or four in the series. It just depends on how things go and what the readers think about them. And so I think that they will be drawn in to the characters and to the world. And I really wanted to kind of build, like I said, build that story world of people whose lives were shaped by their broken past. And so as you mentioned in my bio, that I aged out of foster care,
Yeah.
and something that really helped me. All my brothers and sisters is just like a traumatic, chaotic life that I came out of. Having a lion is just kind of like part of that,
Yeah.
chaos. That really, out of one of nine children, and out of those children, there's only two of us who are who have done pretty well at this point. And so, and it wasn't necessarily because of me. It was, I think that there was somebody who was placed in my life who planted seeds within me that grew into they just like blossomed and grew over time. And so that's kind of what this book series is about, is these kids who were on the path to what we would consider destruction of, possibly being sex trafficked or becoming a prostitute or becoming, drug addicts or violent or any of those number of things. Most of them were on this path. And this mentor who had an MMA gym decided to start a group home. And so he would go to the judges and he would like see these kids who were coming through the program in his neighborhood, or that were coming up through the court system in his neighborhood. And he would like take them into his program instead of into juvenile detention.
Wow.
And through that, mentor them and show them. And the only other people allowed to train at this gym are law enforcement officers. And so they're only around people who their whole job is loyalty and trust and character and upholding the law and justice. And so that sort of helps develop change their core beliefs that they were shaped by their past, and they're not perfect, but they learn throughout this whole series what it's like to do their job and still struggle with, feelings and life and things like that. So, yeah.
So I have a moment. So is that in the book or this is in real life?
So that is, I think that's that is done in real life.
Sure.
Actually, there's a couple of programs that are done like that. Maybe not necessarily in the MMA gym situation, but my husband and I took our kids through karate,
Sure.
and we did it as a family. And through that, I was just like, this discipline and structure, and the fact that it's all about defense and not aggression, that I just really loved learning that. And so combining that with seeing some of these programs. So I did not go through a program like that, but I've seen them just be so effective for people to just totally change their life. So it's just built on that. It's just a different situation to put characters in growing up. And an interesting thing that people might like is that all of the names of the characters who are as a part of this like little group are like, I know for a fact that they were teenage pregnancy names of children. So assuming that, you had a teenage pregnancy child born, and then that would be like a name of a real person, actually. So at least their first name is a real person. So,
oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
so when
As
you
you
see
were,
weird names like that, you see weird names like Blade, that's a real person. I know somebody named Blade.
yeah. As you were talking, I'm like, just that's such a brilliant strategy, right? For these kids. And like you said, like just giving them a purpose and like teaching them and kind of showing the way. I'm like, what a amazing thing that would be to really have these programs throughout the country. That would be awesome for our
Yeah, that is
kids.
great. It is so great. So, so my husband and I'll just kind of deviate a little bit. My husband and I have a nonprofit, and we teach relationship and marriage education, and
Yeah.
we advocate for other people to do the same. And part of the reason that we are doing that, there's many reasons, but one of the biggest, most personal to me is, like I said, that one person who planted the seeds and gave me that guiding compass to go by. And she really planted seeds within me by taking me to church and just teaching me, like, here's kind of like a normal, stable life that I could aim for. And so, um, I learned pretty quickly in my 20s that I had no idea how to have a normal relationship because I was not raised around one. And I would guarantee that most people can relate
Yeah.
with that. They had a broken home. They had parents. They might not have been in foster care, but maybe their parents were dysfunctional, one or more, or both. Maybe their siblings were dysfunctional. And so teaching relationship education to someone who will most likely get married or be in a relationship of some kind in their lifetime is a way that we can shift the culture from this where we've been heading with mental health issues and people, the whole uprising of social media and cell phones and things like that we just haven't really been prepared for. We teach people how to have a face-to-face conversation like you and I are having, and how
Yeah.
to really interact with people and how to make their relationships better. And
Yeah.
it's really amazing how many people they just love that. They don't even know that that's available to them. And we try to offer it for free or low cost if possible.
Yeah. So is it just locally, or people can come to you from all over the US for
So
that?
a little bit of both. We have
Okay.
a sort of a clearinghouse website where you can find more relationship skills, and
Sure.
then we do one called Marriage Minute where we provide like a tip in a minute, and that's kind of on the radio and podcasts and social media and things like that. And then we also my husband and I travel and we teach and speak, and we teach these so they can invite us to come and do this, or
Okay.
we do them locally and people can come to those. So a little bit of all of that.
Yeah, okay. And can they find that on your website? Because I'm sure there's probably listeners, that, me included, that I'm like, oh, I want to know more about this.
Yeah,
So,
I know. Like, I mean, when I was younger, I had no idea things like these existed. So you can start by going to marriageminute.org, and
okay.
that'll kind of lead you to more information about that. And then definitely just reach out to me. And, if you heard this podcast, say, I heard this and I'm just really interested. What does this mean? And what is it? And what do you do?
Yeah.
And it's really fun curriculum. It's not like, you're not dragging and being bored and things
Yeah.
like that. It's really fun.
Yeah, I am actually currently reading, like, the ironic part of this is I'm reading The Anxious Generation right now by Jonathan Haidt. Have you read that?
Yes, I just read that. Yeah.
And it talks about this, these kids that were given smartphones and it was never tested on them, and like what kind of happened to that generation. And I mean, I'm only on chapter 5, so I'm not finished yet, but like what keeps coming up is that your children need to have face-to-face conversations. Like text with emojis are not going to do it. Texting at all will not do it. And it needs to be ideally person to person. But he said, like, obviously, like a FaceTime situation can like be a better bridge than texting. But like just how important it is for your kids to learn those type of skills. And my kids are 4, well, they're 5. I keep saying 4 because he turned 5 on Friday. 5, 6, and 9. And so I am just always so intrigued, like, how do I help my kids function in today's society, right? Like out once you leave me. So I love what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Absolutely. We teach something. I won't go into the whole thing right now for the sake of time, but we teach something that's called the daily temperature reading. And the daily temperature reading is meant for couples to be able to talk. And it's sort of what we call like that compliment sandwich, if you've ever heard that, where you have 2 positive things and maybe 1 slightly negative thing and then 2
Yeah.
more positive things. And really it's meant to it can be used with any person. It can be used with any person. And that one thing in the middle, it's the phrase that has really changed our marriage and our relationship, and even our relationship with our children, which our children are adults now, but we're able to apply it to our grandkids too, is just to say instead of. And so you say,
Yeah.
instead of leaving your laundry on the floor, would you mind picking it up and putting it in the hamper?
Ooh.
Or instead of,
Writing this down.
yeah, so that's just part of it. That's one free tip for you guys, but you have to do it in the order of the right thing. But
Yeah.
it still even works just even out of context. If you're, frustrated and you're not sure, maybe you're like passive aggressively upset that the laundry's constantly on the floor and you keep picking it up and putting it in the laundry basket and you're getting upset about that. You have to understand that that person might not even be aware that this is an issue, and you're creating all this emotional drama and turmoil in your mind when you could just simply ask, like a simple request, and then it's off of you and it's onto them, and they don't have to abide by what you just said, but you've communicated it. And that's 90% of the problem is we don't know how to communicate our feelings to people or our requests.
You're speaking
So
to my soul right now, because I feel like the things I go back and I rehash at like the end of the day is, thinking about like how could I have handled that interaction better with like the people in my own home, right? And like this
yes.
simple tip, like instead of.
Yeah, how easy is that, right?
Yeah,
It's hard,
versus like me being like, rah, because now I'm at my top. So my top blew off and I'm like, the
Yep.
laundry's on the floor again.
Yeah,
So
see, you sound like me, the sweep it under the rug until we have a major blow up about it,
yeah,
kind of thing. And so, yeah, this is definitely why relationship education is so important because, I mean, this is just like one teeny tiny thing that we're getting into right now. And people are like, oh, light bulb moment. Like,
yeah,
I could just really ask somebody to do something and then not, and you don't have to do it like the whole time, but a lot of times when my husband and I do the daily temperature reading, we don't really have anything because we've already taken care of it. So
yeah,
we're not, you're not constantly saying that, and it's not a bad thing. You're teaching people that we can have a conversation that's 90% positive and maybe one thing that I would like for you to change in there. Um, and you just leave the conversation feeling uplifted and loved and heard and connected, and that's what it's all about.
yeah. Well, thank you for all that bonus information because I feel like
Yeah.
we could have a whole other podcast episode on that,
Absolutely,
on that
absolutely. Maybe
alone.
you'll have to say if people are commenting, we need more of this, then we'll do another. We'll bring my husband on
Perfect.
and he'll teach it to us.
Well, let's go back to you a little bit. What
Yeah.
have you learned about yourself through writing?
Wow. So many unexpected things actually. I've learned a lot about well, imposter syndrome is one thing that I keep saying, like, when am I going to really feel like I know what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And I talk to people that I know who are, they've been doing this for 25 years and they still feel this, and they have awards and they are bestsellers and they have a huge social media followings
Yeah.
and they still feel like they just don't know what they're doing. And so I've kind of learned to tamp down my inner critic. And I've learned that I'm quite a perfectionist in a lot of different things, like specifically, like I need things to be done right. And so sometimes when I'm writing a novel, I get very what I call top heavy, where I'm like fixing the front end and
Oh,
editing
yeah.
and
As you're
editing and
going.
editing
Yeah.
and editing. And I have to go like leave that alone and like tell the whole story and then go back and do the edits. And I find myself getting stuck in that. Like my brain doesn't want to move on from from that because it's not right. And so then and that's just learning the process of writing. And and the other thing is that I've learned that's really interesting is that it takes me a while to get into the characters and to find out who they really are and what they're really wanting and what they're really needing. And sometimes I will like feel more attached to one character more than the other. Because so in a romantic suspense, you typically have both heroine and heroine points of view, hero and heroine points of view.
Yeah.
And so in that, I usually find myself feeling more connected to one than the other. And it's weird because sometimes it will be the hero and what he came from or where he's going through. And I don't, and then some conversations just like come up out of the blue that I wasn't expecting. And then they're just there. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Where did that come from? So I love it, that creativity just coming out.
Yeah. Every time an author says that on the show, I'm like, I love that it's a discovery journey for you
Mhm.
too, right? Like it's not so planned out that you know exactly where it's coming, but it's like this process of discovery for you as the author too, because I think that's so cool.
Oh, yes, yes. I have so I typically know a little bit more about what's happening and who the killer is, but not always. Not
Sure.
not always. But for people that one of the things I didn't know when I became a writer, because I'm an avid reader and I didn't know a lot about the writing life
Sure.
and all of that, is that when you write a proposal, you want to give them a synopsis of the book, which means you kind of need to know what's going to happen. And if you're a discovery writer, that's pretty painful because your book might not look like anything you thought it was going to look like because that is just not the way it goes.
Yeah.
And so and I have a friend that she's what they call a pantser, where she doesn't really even know where she's going with the story. She just like writes by the seat of her pants, and she knows her characters really well when she starts, and she knows kind of where she wants to go, and but she doesn't know who the killer is until like the very end of her books. And people will put a review out there like, oh, well, I could tell who the killer was from the beginning. And she'll always tell me, she's like, good, because I didn't. Like, I'm glad you saw it because I didn't see it coming at all.
Yeah, that is so fun. Well, for listeners, when they pick up Girl Lost, what is your wish for them? What do you hope they'll take away?
So I really think that I would love for them to just kind of um, walk through the story and just kind of understand that each person deals with trauma and life's events in a different way. Some people will tell everyone every little thought that comes into their head, and some people will do it in their actions instead of in their words, and some people will just not say anything at all. And so I hope that they realize that they are human too, and that as a reader and as a human that is living this life, that they're just not forgotten and that their own story matters. And that even if they've had failures in the past, failed relationships or failed jobs or any kind of failure, that that doesn't mean that they're not worthy and that success and love won't find them again.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a reminder. The book, and I hope that the series is a reminder that healing isn't necessarily linear, but it's always possible.
Yeah.
And there's always hope, even whenever you're in the midst of trouble and it seems like you're just taking one hit after another. So, and really, I hope that people, anytime you pick up a book of mine, I think one of my goals is that people will realize that they're just not broken beyond repair.
Yeah.
And that a hard start doesn't mean that you can't have a healthy future. It does take intentional work. And I think that that is the key, is the intentional work. So I just encourage people who have maybe walked through foster care like me, or adoption, or maybe they have deep family wounds or deep personal wounds, that they'll just pursue that relationship education like we've talked about, because those skills aren't always taught whenever you're just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And it's hard to implement them. So you have to work to develop that healthy muscle so that your natural tendencies aren't maybe fight or flight.
Yeah.
So your emotions are real, but they're not meant to drive the bus.
Sure.
And as a Christian, I believe that only God can drive that bus, and that when we let him lead, the healing follows.
Yeah.
So that's what I really hope that people will learn anytime they read any book, but especially Girl Lost.
Yeah, and I love that word that you use there, that intentionality, because I think I
Mhm.
look back at times in my life and it's so true. You have to be intentional to take like that one next step in that direction.
Yes, absolutely. I think sometimes, as we were talking about the anxious generation, that there's a generation of kids who, and I say kids, but young adults really, that are letting life pass them by, and and expecting life to happen to them. And so intentionality is very important, that you have to stand up and you have to take steps to make things right, and to learn first before you can implement, and then know that you're going to be like an infant who's learning how to walk.
Yeah, it can be
And
messy.
yeah, it's going to be messy.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important. I particularly love teaching relationship education before people get into a marriage or some sort of
Yeah.
married relationship, because then you've got two people who are willing to work through their problems, instead of, you're going to fix me and I'm going to fix you, and together we'll have something great. Nobody wants to be
Yeah.
fixed. And that's part of what happens in Girl Lost, is the hero, he's trying to fix himself. He's like, yeah, I believe in God, but I'm going to fix myself, and I'm going to do these things over here because I believe these are the things that work. And he kind of learns that you can't do everything yourself.
Yeah.
That you know he for me personally, I realized that healing did not begin until I stopped trying to save myself and let God step into that process. And then it allowed me to really start to change, and to change my trajectory, really,
Yeah.
from where I could have gone.
Yeah, we have talked about it a lot on the show about like surrendering and how hard that
Mhm.
is.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Surrendering to
It's a
the
hard,
process. Well,
that's
let's
right.
switch gears a little bit and let's talk about who you are as a reader. So, what genres do you enjoy reading?
Oh man, I really love a lot of genres, and I have a book club, and we read across all genres. And I love it when I have a great recommendation. So in my newsletter, I'm always asking, okay, like I need a good plot twist book. Like, give me your
Yeah.
best plot twist books, and people will recommend them, and I'll read them. And so I find myself drawn a lot to thrillers and thrillers with a hint of romance or psychological thrillers with a hint of romance. And I think it's because the way my brain works, I love to try to figure out the puzzle. We were just kind of talking
Yeah.
like trying to figure out the puzzle as you're watching these relationships happen. And I know that some people don't like the slow character progression, but I love character-driven novels. And so as a reader, I will read pretty much anything that has great. I have a Goodreads folder that says like books I still think about. And they're the
Oh,
books
that's a
that,
fun one.
yeah, they're just like those ones that you just like can't stop thinking about. Or when somebody's like, I'm in the mood for this, you can go, okay, I've got that book. It's over here in this list. Like, go look at this list. And these are the books that still puzzle me or they just affected me. And that's a great thing about a book, right? To
Yeah.
like make a list like that to leave you thinking. And so that's what I like as a reader.
Yeah. How in your busyness do you find time to read?
A lot of times I will read a either on my Kindle or I will read or listen to audiobooks because I know I feel like um reading is important for me to refill that creative well that I have,
Sure.
and a good story can I just don't watch a lot of television. Like I would be more inclined to listen to a podcast or an audiobook
Yeah.
or something than I would be to turn the TV on. Very rarely do I want to turn the TV on. Um, and so I don't know, I just really love getting lost in a book. And so whether it's audio or on my Kindle, I love to read. My husband and I have a boat on the lake in Branson, Missouri. And so we love to go out on the boat. And my favorite to sit in the sun and just read on my Kindle. And I
Yep.
love it.
That
And I
sounds like
love a good paper,
perfection.
right? Doesn't it? Just getting warm in the sun, you get too warm, you get in the water, get back out, read a little bit more. And he likes to just kind of drive around and cruise around. And so, he's taking the drive and I'm just reading my book and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And
That's like the new definition of passenger princess.
yes, totally right, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
I just need him to bring me a little iced tea every once in a while with a little mint in it.
Yeah. I
So
love that.
I love paperbacks, but if you're on a boat, paperbacks get wet and
Ah,
paperbacks blow in the wind and
yeah.
things like that. And I've learned the art of when you get tired at night that your Kindle, you can tint it and read on your side.
Yep.
That you gotta put those things into context, and then now as I get a little bit older, being able to increase the font sadly is very, very important.
Well, and I love the Kindle now because my kids are still young. Like we just took the spring break trip, and so we're like in the hotel room, so it's like lights out at 8:39, and I might not necessarily be tired, but I can have the backlit Kindle, and I'm like, I'm not waking anybody up. I'm reading my book. Y'all are sleeping, and everybody's happy. Like,
Yes, absolutely. That's
so,
great.
well, you have brought three books with you today for your book flight. Can you tell us a bit why you chose these books?
Okay, so I think that the first one that I'm going to talk about is The Hobbit, and I love this book so much because it is written in the weirdest way, first of all, because it's almost like a narrator that's narrating a book or narrating another story. And
Yeah.
so it's like a very interesting way to even approach writing a novel. Second of all, it's an adventure from beginning to end. And I
Yeah.
love that. And it's the language is different. So normally fantasy is not my go-to genre. I do enjoy some fantasy books, and but this one it just alights my imagination. There's so much conflict. There's a lot of characters, and they each have different conflicts, and they're all trying to go to the same goal, but then they have again just conflict, and so
Yeah.
an adventure. And I just love it. so much. So that's one book that I
Okay.
brought because
Yeah.
that one is like most people have read it and it's a great classic.
Well, and I feel like that is the type of book where it wasn't, I don't know, like maybe it was written to be like a mass market book at the time, but I feel like you can read it at different stages of your life. And because the language and the adventure is so, I want to say dense in a way, but like not meaning like it's hard to read, but just you can read it at different stages of your life and it's going to hit you differently.
Oh yeah, and it's totally a book that you could open up and you could just start in a random chapter and feel like you've kind of almost gotten like a short story,
Yeah.
that like how it is. And so the phrase out of the frying pan into the fire is a chapter title. And I think I feel like when I read that, that was like the first time I ever heard that. Was like reading it in a chapter,
Yeah.
and then of course I hear people saying it all the time, and but you can literally pick up The Hobbit and you can just open to that one chapter and you could just read that one chapter and feel like you have almost a completed story with a little bit of a cliffhanger, obviously. But and it's great for kids, like reading it to my kids when they were younger.
Yeah.
They loved it. We would just read a chapter at a time. And I think I can't wait until like I'm able to read it to my grandkids too when they'll sit still long enough to listen to it. So we're still in
Yeah.
picture books.
Yep. A rite of passage there for The
Right.
Hobbit.
Yes,
So,
for The
what is,
Hobbit.
yes, what's the next book you brought today?
So another book that I brought would be actually a series. It's called The Brand of Justice, and it's written by Lisa Phillips.
Okay.
And what I love about this book is, this whole series, is that it is a relatively, I mean, it's a clean, um, it's a Christian based, but not really like an in your face
Sure.
Christian book, like not a bunch of scriptures and things like that, but it follows one character and her point of view over multiple books. I think we're up to like 15 or
A
something
lot.
right now,
Okay.
or that's the goal is 15, I think. And I just love it because I'm a binge reader. So if you have a series where I can follow one character for, 30 books, I'm there. I'm there. I don't know how the authors do it, but and keep it from being so formulaic.
Yeah.
There's a couple of series that I really love that they tend to be a little more formulaic, but I know what I'm getting into and I'm there for the characters and the
Sure.
humor or something like that. But this particular series it's like a satisfying read that you can almost read as a standalone, so you can jump anywhere into the series.
Okay. That's good to
And
know.
yeah, and I love it. It'll just make you wanna, and there's lots of action and lots of um just following the character. Her name's Kenna, and she is I mean, just following that character is just so much fun. And I just love watching her grow too, from like this place that she starts where she's um like angry and upset and kind of like burned as a former FBI agent to like and closed off to actually like somehow allowing all these people into her life. And so
Yeah.
I just really love the series and I think people would enjoy it.
Okay. So that was the Brand of Justice series by Lisa
Yeah.
Phillips. And then what's the
Yeah.
last book you brought today?
So the other book that I brought is called The Joy of Falling by Lindsay Harrell.
Okay.
And I picked this book up, I think just because of the cover, maybe. I didn't even know what I was going to read.
Yeah.
And it's really one of my favorite books. And so I haven't read everything that Lindsay Harrell has written, but this particular book, for some reason, I don't know what it is. So I'm like, let me try to put it into words for a reader. It's an interesting story because there are two women who have lost their husbands to a tragic scuba diving accident, and they were brothers. And so you have these characters. You have a mother who's lost her only two children at the same exact time, and then how does that mother interact with the wives who are also dealing with the grief of losing their husbands, and then they have children. And so this mother is trying to figure out where do I still fit into my daughter-in-law's lives? Do I even fit anymore? And then you have two women who are dealing with their grief in totally different ways. And it's not overwhelming grief, because if you tell me like this book is going to make you cry like a Nicholas Sparks ugly
Yeah.
crying, I'm like, I'm not into that, because, I got enough going on. But it's not that. It's just watching like a slow flower bloom. I guess
Okay.
that's the best way I can even
Yeah.
describe it. And so what happens is one woman is moving ahead in her grief because she's got kids and she's just got to get life done, and the other one is stuck and she can't go anywhere. Um, and then she gets a call that her husband needs to finish paying the rest of the money for his ultra marathon that he was going to do in New Zealand. And at the time, I didn't even know what an ultra marathon is, and so I looked that up. And so she decides that maybe one thing that she could do to feel connected to her husband is to do this ultra marathon. But they can't change the people who've signed up. So she needs to convince the other woman, because they were going to do it as brothers. And then they had a third person, a third man who was going to be involved in it too. So she's got to convince them to do this, to train for it, to go to New Zealand, to run this ultra marathon. And it's just a great journey. And I read it all the time, actually. I will pick it up and read it every once in a while. So it's a great, great story. It'll
Yeah.
touch your heart. So I give you suspense, and then I give you this action pack Hobbit book, and then I give you this feel good romance that I think you'll love.
Okay, I have not heard this one, so I am super excited to add this to my list. So that was The Joy of
Yeah.
Falling by Lindsay Harrell, you said, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, that's right.
perfect. Well, thank you so much for bringing those books. How I love to end our show here is with our bonus pairings, which are just a speed round of questions you can answer really quick. Well, you've already kind of answered this. So, are you a rereader?
Yes, I am a rereader, but not constantly. It just depends on the book. It would have to be one of those that touches me, or if I'm telling my friend, I know it's supposed to be a speed round, but if I'm telling my friend, you should read this book, it's so great, and they pick it up, I'll reread it so that we can talk
Fun.
about it and I remember exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's a great way to do that. What
Mhm.
is one book you've read that has changed your life?
Ooh, wow, that's kind of an interesting one. I would say fiction or nonfiction, man. Um, I would say one book that changed my life is probably reading Misery by Stephen King, because I picked up this book when I was way too young to read it, and it taught me to read. I mean, it really
Yeah.
taught me to fall in love with a story, and it taught me about deep character development and twists and turns and conflict, and it's one of the books that made me want to be a writer.
Okay.
So it's one of the first, I mean, it's the first thing I can remember really reading that I was just like blown away, and I was like, I have to read another one of these books. So maybe not the best author to kind of start with when you're a kid, but
It got you into it.
yeah, it got me into reading, so that's for sure.
Yes. Well, and then lastly, what are you reading next?
So, what I'm reading next is, I think, the next book in the Brand of Justice series.
Okay.
So, I was behind like a book or two, and I got caught up. And then the next one, I believe it either just came out or it's coming out. And let me caveat also, I've been waiting for another one by Jessica R. Patch
Okay.
that is kind of her first psychological thriller.
Ooh,
And I've
okay.
been waiting for this book, and it's called The Other Sister. And I've been waiting for this book because I know Jessica Patch pretty well, and I know her writing style, and
Yeah.
she has written some amazing borderline psychological thrillers. And
Okay.
so this is going to be like a true step into that. And I believe that in the inspirational fiction market, there's not a lot of psychological thrillers.
Yeah.
And so this will probably be one of my next ones. So those two will be next on my list.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show with me today. I know your time is precious and I appreciate all you've given me.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy we had this great conversation. I just really enjoyed it. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for listening to this episode today with Kate Angelo, including some of her favorite books. Head on over to bookishflights.com to get a full copy of the show notes. If you enjoyed the show, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Your review not only helps the show, but it also helps the podcast to reach others. Make sure you are subscribed on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to make sure you will not miss an episode. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. As Emma Thompson said, I think books are like people in the sense that they'll turn up in your life when you most need them. Cheers to you, dear readers. Until next time.